The bills are due for Maura Healey because the Massachusetts voters have had enough. I'm going to share this poll with you. Now, I know a lot of different commentators and, different legacy media have shared some of the metrics on this screen. They may or may not be willing to talk about some of the things I'm going to talk about today. I really don't care. I'm just going to call it the way that it is. So let me share this poll with you. I'm going to give you some of my opinions on what is happening within this poll. And then I'm going to give you, I guess, my take on why this is happening, I guess. So this is the favorables, Trump, Healey, and Markey. Now, again, Trump is going to be unfavorable in Deep Blue, Massachusetts. This is just the way things go. Maura Healey, however, is tanking. Her reputation is tanking. Her support is tanking. And I'm going to break down each part of this and give you some examples of why. Okay, and then I'll talk about it a little bit more. So overall, we have -6 for Maura Healey. Gender, men and women, okay? Men have -12 for her. Women have -1. I'm not trying to offend anybody here, but I just want to be honest. The reason that you see stuff like this is, again, in my opinion, now I've been with my wife for 18 plus years, okay? I think I know women decently well, okay? Women have more leeway when it comes to certain things and to certain people. Now, they could get to their breaking point. Don't get me wrong. I understand that in its entirety. But women are generally the ones that are, more sympathetic, more empathetic. They give people second chances, so on and so forth. So it's no surprise that the women are only a -1. What's also not a surprise is men is -12. Just so you know, and you could obviously look this up. I don't talk about this on my channel because it doesn't have to do with Massachusetts, but a lot of young white men feel very disenfranchised in this country. And when we go further down the poll, you're going to see why, okay? They feel very disenfranchised. They think that they don't have the same opportunities as other people. I know that may be a hard thing to believe, but it is true. It is very, very true. And it goes to show you within the next bracket of this poll. So we have age. 18 to 44 is a -12. 45 to 59 is -2. 60 plus is -1. The reason that this number is so high, -12 between 18 to 44, is because this is the same subsection of an age group where the majority of these people are either getting out of college, they're starting a career, they're starting a family, they're thinking about buying a house, or the alternative is they think about moving. This almost directly correlates. It's almost directly in line for the age group that is leaving the state. I think the age group leaving the state was like 24 to 44 or something like that. And I'm one of them. Now, what side of this bracket is Mike on? I am certainly not closer to 18. I am closer to 44. But still, the numbers apply. Now, what's surprising to me is this. When you look at 45 to 59. Well, why is 45 to 59 only -2? These are people that are, let's say, thinking about retirement, right? They're thinking about retirement. They may be getting ready to retire. Of course, you could attribute this to 60 plus as well, but we'll talk about that in a second. But I feel like these people are so embedded into, Massachusetts, how the way things are. They're probably waiting until they get to potentially retirement age to get out. Okay. That's more, Massachusetts is not a very retirement friendly area to be in. Okay. Especially if you're going to leave any assets of your home, a lot of people do different things, and you could see this on public records to, sort of get out of having to pay an extreme amount of taxes if you sell your home or you leave it. You know what I'm talking about here. So I'm kind of not surprised with this, but I am surprised at this number. Now, I'm surprised at 60 plus. The reason that I'm surprised at 60 plus is this. People that are 60 plus, you may be some of them watching, you probably know where I'm going with this. People that are 60 plus are some of the people that lived in Massachusetts their entire lives. They're the people that built their career, built their families here, and they're also the people that are one of the most disenfranchised outside of the scope of 18 to 44. I think that 60 plus are people that are on fixed incomes. They're people that are on fixed incomes. They can't afford an extra $200 or $250 this year versus 5 years ago on their electricity bills. They can't afford another override in their town. So I'm very surprised to see 60 plus at only -1. This is kind of shocking to me. I'm not going to lie. I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying that I'm surprised that this is the way that it is. Now, if I were to try to figure out why this is, I think that a lot of people that are 60 plus years old, if you're not looking for alternative news sources, right, and you're relying on the Globe or something like that for your news, or you put on ABC, you're watching WCVB, and no offense to these channels, they could do what they do. I'll do what I do too. But I think that this like age group of people, if you're not looking for, alternative sources of what is actually happening in your state, these people could, and I'm not saying that you guys are, but a lot of these people could potentially be a little bit uninformed, right? Like, and what I mean by that is this, like, in terms of a budget override, or a override of your budget of your town, right? A lot of people will be opposed to it or this, and they'll think that, well, maybe it's because my town is bad at money. That would be true if it was a only select portion of the same towns every single year that needed a budget override. But that number is enormous. We're up to 74 overrides as of, the beginning of May versus 54 in October of last year. So a lot of these people don't want to do the homework. They don't want to do the digging. They rely on what the news shows them or doesn't show them, for that matter. So I think that I think that is a very problematic age category. And again, I'm not trying to hate on this age category. I'm just saying that a lot of these people, especially if it's even older than, like, let's say 65, maybe 70 plus, a lot of them are not looking for, different resources for news. These are very loyal, in my opinion. These are very loyal, and that's to their credit, right? They're very loyal people. These are people that probably grew up reading the Boston Globe. Okay, they continue to read the Boston Globe, and a lot of times they like to be naive as well. Being loyal, you could be loyal and you could be naive at the same time. I'm not saying that's the case here. I'm just saying that there is a probability of this. So this is surprising to me because this is one of the groups that are getting the most disenfranchised inside of this state that we call Taxachusetts. Let's move on. Race. I'll probably say what other people wouldn't hear. Okay, I don't know if anybody covered this, but white, -10. Non-white, +10. So the reason that this happens, okay, the reason that this happens is because this state went so far in trying to correct what may have been done throughout the past that it completely changed the dynamic of a lot of these, different programs inside of the state, whether it's, getting into college, and you know what I'm talking about. Getting into a technical school, you know what I'm talking about. There are all these benefits that have been implemented, which there should be benefits, but benefits should not be based on race. Benefits should be based on income, right? It should be these programs should be an income-based program, period, end of story. This would alleviate a lot of stressors, by the way. So, of course, when you have, let's say, white, in terms of race, white, people are not approving of Maura Healey because they are more than likely being disenfranchised by Maura Healey. While people that are non-white, you figure a lot of illegal immigrants that came into this state, the Massachusetts magnet, guess what? They're going to be in favor. They're going to be in favor of her because they are incentivized. They're incentivized to keep her in office, and they will continue to vote the same way as long as those those incentivizing mechanisms are in place. It's as simple as that. You don't have to get any more complicated than what it is. Now, of course, what party? Everybody in the Democratic Party, or everybody that's a Democrat, at least a lot of them, like Maura Healey. I don't know how you like Maura Healey. I do not know how you guys, and I'm not hating at all. I'm just saying you really need to see what is happening to the fabric of this state. We are losing Massachusetts, okay? We are hanging off of a cliff. And if she gets another 4 years, that bus is just going to go right off the cliff. And the reason, we'll talk about that in a couple minutes, okay? Then with Republicans, of course, she's -84. I'm surprised that this number isn't higher. So this is a telling number to me. I'm surprised that this number is higher. I mean, even Ed Markey is beating her in that regard. Independents. This is a big one, okay? I've said this before. If you haven't seen my videos, I'll say this again. The majority of Massachusetts was Democrats in terms of the population. It isn't anymore. The majority of Massachusetts are independents. It's 64 to 65% of the population there. So if you were to, and I don't need a chart or math in order to understand this, but the fact remains, if you had the majority of the state being Democrat that transitions into the majority of the state being independent, you could attribute some Republicans to that, okay? But I don't think it's like 50-50. It's probably 75-25 or 80-20, right? Let's apply the 80-20 rule here. It's probably 80% of Democrats that switched over to independent or unenrolled, and maybe 20% of Republicans. You could hate on both parties. I do it all the time. It's fine. And independents, what they like to do is they're not more, but they are somewhat more analytical, right? They vote for the person, not necessarily the party. And that's fine and well to do that. You guys, the independent voters inside of Massachusetts, are going to determine not who gets elected come November. You are going to determine the future of this state. Trust me, it's very important. And finally, this is a good one too. Education. I think be a bachelor's degree, right? So no bachelor's degree, -18. Bachelor's degree plus 10. So a lot of people could frame this and say, well, uneducated people don't like Maura Healey. That's 100% true. Educated people like Maura Healey. That's 100% true. Why do I think that is? Here's a hot take on this. The people that come here and go to the schools here, and the people that are institutionalized and indoctrinated in our schools are going to be more than likely leaning Democrat. They are. If you went to college here, you are 100% going to be, Democrat or liberal or even further than that. That's what happens. So these kids go to school, they get an education, and they will primarily vote for Democrat. That could be in a completely separate video, but that is what happens. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but it is my opinion. Finally, income. Less than $100,000. -16. $100,000 plus 2. The reason that I wish they had these numbers like broken down a little bit more in terms of income, and I don't mean by dollars. I don't mean by dollars. I mean by types of people. The reason that I think this is because if you were to get a number, actually we could apply. Let me just say this much: if you were to apply this number, and let's say you were to get people that made like $30,000 or less, I think this number would be a +50. For Maura Healey. Okay, it would be a +50 for Maura Healey. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And the reason that this number is so high is, again, these are more than likely educated people. They have a good job, and they're part of the BA+ category. That's my opinion. That's just the truth. The reason that the under one, I'm surprised. Again, this isn't a +50 for under 100K. The biggest beneficiaries inside of Massachusetts are people that don't make enough money. We are a welfare state. We have turned into a welfare state on top of a state with a lot of fraud, wasteful spending, no transparency, and no accountability. If you were to bracket these numbers down even further, that's what I was trying to say before. It is the numbers. If you were to bracket these numbers down even further, they would be very, very telling. Because again, the biggest beneficiaries are the bottom of this state and the top of this state. That's what happens inside of Massachusetts. The middle class is the one, are effectively the people that got scooped out. So overall, here's my opinion on this. The bills came due for Maura Healey. They did, right? And I really do think that a lot of people inside of the state, mainly independent voters, and I talked to many Democrats as well, even inside of the legislature, they are frustrated with this woman. This is the same woman that ran on stopping gas pipelines. She ran on going green. She ran on, opening borders to have this state have an influx of illegal immigrants that are living off of our money. People have a tendency to be okay with those things for a certain amount of time. But then at the end of the month or the end of 6 months or the end of the year, they look at their bank account, they look at their pocketbooks, and they go, where the hell did all the money go? Well, now you know. And she's underwater for it. She is. Again, this is a poll by MassINC. This is a 39% as favorable and 45% as being unfavorable. And really, before anybody gets in the comments and says, okay, this looks like a bias poll, I understand what you're trying to say here. But there's, again, they identified people that were either Democrat, independent, or Republican. So it's not just Republicans that is making this poll unfavorable or skewing the poll, right? It's the people inside of the state that pulled all the levers to get her elected, along with the strategist that has Epstein on speed dial. That's what happened. That's what happened. And now everybody is sitting at home wondering if they should pay their electric bill or pay their groceries. And make no mistake, it was a failure, right? It was, I can understand voting for somebody based on how they talk, based on these other things, maybe how she did as AG and so on and so forth. I can understand those things, but we are at a turning point here in Massachusetts, a turning point. When your rent is unaffordable, right? When your electricity bills are 57% above the national average, when we are giving out no big contracts on your dime to try to solve an immigration crisis inside of Massachusetts, we have a problem. And now the same voters that cheered Maura Healey on are the same ones that are looking at their pocketbooks today and they're going, wait a minute here, where the hell did all the money go? Now, I think, let's be fair, I think that you could give Maura Healey a pass if we had a revenue problem, meaning the state wasn't collecting enough money. But that's not the case. We have a priorities problem. It's theft. That's what this is. It's intergenerational theft dressed up as some kind of sympathy or compassion, because every dollar that's shoveled into this system inside of Massachusetts with no verification, no work requirements, no consequences, is a dollar less or more that should be going to infrastructure, education, your roads, your police, your schools, and finally, your wallet. She has no solutions to the problem. And I'm getting tired, and I'm sure you are too, of hearing we have more work to do. You've had the time to do the work. You carried the torch from previous administrations and kept it on course, right? You carried two torches for that matter. You cannot solve a bureaucracy by making it bigger, okay, or creating more bureaucracy. And the fact is, the media here covers for her. You could even attribute the, let's say 60, like maybe I said this, I don't remember what the hell I said. Like the 60 plus people are a lot of the people that are reading the legacy media here. They're watching the legacy media here. I think that they're the most people that are going to be influenced by these things, right? So look at it this way. When you have right to shelter, we're basically a sanctuary state now. You expand welfare benefits with no verification. You know, your property taxes are going up. Your services are getting cut. Of course, people are going to be frustrated. This poll is not a snapshot of one bad month for Maura Healey. This is, in my opinion, an early warning sign. It is. It's the momentum of the middle class, the working class, the independents, and even, you know, young professionals, Democrats and Republicans alike, who are catching on to what is happening. That is what's going on. Because here's a fact. Once policy is okay, but once it hits your pocketbook, or once it hits your classroom, or once it hits your, you know, grandmother's heating bill, right? The ideology that these people carry, that torch that these people carry forward, it stops being free. Right? The proof of concept is no longer proof of concept. It's just not good. Okay. She's had her time. She's done. Right. And the people running this state, she's run them into the ground with her. So if Healey gets reelected in 2026, I'm telling you right now, this state is so far gone. It's going to take a monumental amount of time and patience to get it back on track. This is going to be one of the biggest elections to save the future of Massachusetts. It is. And I've said this before. It starts at home. It starts with you guys. It starts with you guys. You guys need to be more vocal. You need to speak up. You know, be cordial, be all those things, but speak up. Don't be scared to speak your mind. So let me leave you with this. If people are deciding to vote for Healey, they are literally voting for a higher cost of living. They're voting for higher energy bills. They're voting for more towns going underwater. They're voting for more violence on our streets. It's a vote for more people leaving. It's a vote for more businesses fleeing. And it's a vote for less transparency. And it's a vote for less accountability. Is that what people really want in this state? Is that what you guys, you know, you're leaving the future generations growing up into this? That vote is on you. That's what it is. This vote is on you. It's your children. It's your grandchildren. Everybody will feel the effects of your vote come November. Trust me, they will. They will. Things will only get substantially worse under Maura Healey. It's not even at baseline anymore. It only got worse under her. If there was nobody at all and everything stayed status quo and as Baker left it, I'm not saying that Baker was perfect, okay, by any stretch of the imagination. But if it was at least at that baseline, we would be in a better position than we were over these last few years with Maura Healey. That is a undeniable fact. And it is a fact that people need to get through their skulls. They need to realize what is actually happening to the fabric of this state. It's a problem. It is a massive problem. So, of course, this poll, I wish, hopefully some more polls will come out in the future. I'm sure that they will. But overall, I see this as an opportunity. Okay, I see this as an opportunity for people to come together. I don't care if you're Democrat, Independent. It doesn't. I really don't care. I don't care, because most of the stuff that I'm talking about is a bipartisan issue. It affects everybody across the board. And when your kids can't afford to grow up or live inside of the town that they grew up in, or you can't, you've been here your entire life, don't you sit back and think, geez, we have a problem here? We certainly do have a problem here, but it's going to be up to you guys to change that problem, to set the ship in the right direction, to change course entirely. So again, she's underwater, and I think that these polls are only going to get worse for her. If they get better, we'll cover that too, but I would be very, very surprised if they do. That's it.